Hi guys! Okay, so today I'm going to be doing this makeup look with the Too Faced In My Sweet chocolate bar. This chocolate bar is amazing. I love it. It's beautiful. It has a lot of really nice colors in it. I have probably been using it non-stop since I got it, which I want to say is about 2 weeks, and it's amazing. It's just as great as the chocolate bar. I am using this one a little bit more often than I was using the other chocolate bar, but I think simply because I really like the browns and the orange in this one. The other one does have really pretty shades in it too, but this peanut butter shade, guys, is amazing. This one right here, I use it in the video too, but those two, that one and the one above it, which that one is called Truffled and Hot Fudge. They're all amazing. I freaking love those. Okay, and then also today in the video, I used the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. It's a contour palette. It has 6 shades in it. It is amazing. It's beautiful. I love it. This is the darkest shade. These 2 shades are the ones that I use the most, as well as this one in the middle. When comparing it to the Anastasia contour kit, the shades are merely the same on the bottom, but that banana shade, the one in Kat Von D's palette is a little bit less yellow, which I don't know if really is a good thing or a bad thing, but either way, I still like this one better. I don't know exactly why why this isn't as yellow, because really honestly, that was what drew me to this banana shade, was the yellow tone, because I have a lot of yellow in my skin. But this one, I can't even tell you. I haven't pulled out my Anastasia contour kit since I got this one in the mail. So, if you were looking for one or the other, or if you were looking for a contour kit and you couldn't decide, I would go with the Shade and Light simply because of how blendable they are. This dark shade in here is very, very dark, very, very pigmented, but extremely easy to blend. And that's one of the things that I look for when I'm looking for contour shades, because nobody wants to look muddy and not blended well. So if you are just now starting out and you really just want to buy you a contour kit, this one is the one that I'd go with. Now the only downside to this versus this is these don't have the refillable pans, and these do. So you would essentially have to rebuy the whole thing versus just buying the little pan from here whenever you run out of it. So that's a downside, but guys, it's worth it because this is amazing. I love this. I also use the Rebel Bloom shade in Barely Bloomed, and it's awesome. I love it. It's beautiful. I'm going to do a video today and upload a swatch video. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm going to upload a swatch video with all of them. I bought them all this weekend because they were so beautiful I couldn't pick. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and if you guys have any more requests or questions, just list them down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.
Okay guys, so to start off with, I'm using my L'Oreal True Match in Nude Beige, and I'm using my Flat Top Cookie by Sigma. I started out with foundation already on my face because I didn't realize I wasn't filming, so yeah, sorry. Here I'm going to be using the Kat Von D concealer. I can't remember what shade it is, so I will put it down in the description bar below, but I'm just distributing those dots and putting the concealer where I feel like I need to be highlighted, or just where I want to be highlighted in general. Normally around the nose, in that circular area around my cheeks, that's where right there where I'm dragging it down. That's normally where I try to make sure that my concealer is very packed on. I hate to say that word, but packed on, nicely blended, but packed on, mainly because I get a lot of redness throughout the day whenever my makeup starts to wear off. So if you have any places where you get a little bit redder than others, some people it's the forehead, most of the time it's the T-zone area. If you do have that problem, what I would do is I would put concealer on once, let it blend in and dry a little bit, then just do one small coat on top of that, and you won't have as much problems with that redness bleeding through your foundation. I'm making sure that I'm pushing this into the skin as well, especially right around those areas where I have that problem, because if I'm pressing it into the skin, that's whenever I'll have less, I guess you could say, fading out of the foundation and the concealer. Here I'm going to be using the Kat Von D Shade and Light. That shade in the middle has recently replaced my banana shade that I normally use out of the contour kit, and I think it's just because of the formula. I couldn't exactly get the answer for you whenever I was doing the intro, but after I thought about it, I think it's really just the formula. I wore this for a couple hours, and I didn't see any creasing in my concealer, nothing. I just love this formula of these powders. It's absolutely perfect. I'm using the Sigma, I can't remember what brush, but I will list it down in the description bar again, to set all that concealer. Here I'm going to be using both of those shades, that middle and the one to the right, to contour my face. The lightest one is the one that I'm starting with, and I'm just putting those lines of, to start out with, really. Just after I use that light shade, I normally go back and make it a little bit darker where I feel like it needs to be more in depth and more dimensional. So this is where I'm just starting out. I'm drawing my lines, and from here I'll be blending them out. They look a little harsh to begin with, but once you start distributing that bronzer all throughout your face, or those contour shades, it doesn't really necessarily have to be a bronzer, but once you put those contour shades throughout your face, it really starts to level it out and starts all to come together. So don't get freaked out whenever you feel like you look crazy with those lines coming out your face. I promise in the end it'll all look blended. Here I went a little bit too far. Normally I don't go past the middle of my eye. So when I do accidentally go a little bit too far, I just take my foundation brush and wipe away what I have. As long as you're not putting any extra foundation on there, you won't look cakey. Here I'm using the darkest shade, and this is where I'm starting to build dimension, and this is where it starts to look a little bit too dark. But after you start blending and you distribute throughout your face, like I said before, it will look better. The darkest shade I don't normally take out as far towards the inner of I guess you could say the inside of my face, because of the fact that that's where your dimension comes in. When you have two colors, I've said this before, but when you have two colors, you have a light and a dark, you don't want that dark color to completely overpower that light color, because then that's when you lose your dimension. So try your best to find the placement that you feel most comfortable with, and that's what's going to give you that dimension. Here I'm doing the temples. I'm trying to get as close to the hairline as I possibly can, and I'm just making that big three that I've talked about before, just not in a three completely. I'm just doing it separately. I'm just making sure that they're nice and blended and jamming out. So this is probably my favorite brush to do this with. After all this is said and done, I come back with the Duo Fiber brush from Sigma, and I make sure that everything is nice and blended. This is me going back with my Kabuki brush by Sigma with no extra foundation on it, but I'm just making sure that everything is nice and clean the way I want it. This is the Chocolate Soleil Too Faced bronzer, and this is where I'm just going back and adding a little bit of lighter color on top of that contour shade, just to make sure that there is still dimension there the way I like it. You don't necessarily have to choose, you don't necessarily have to use this many different contour shades. This is just how I prefer to do it. You could only do it with one and it would look just as great. Here I'm using the Clinique, I want to say, what is that shade? I can't remember, but I will list it down below again. I'm sorry, guys. Here I'm just making sure that it's on the apples of my cheeks. I actually used two blushes in this particular look, mainly because I felt like this was a little bit too orange, but I did still like the warmth that it gave me. So later I'll go back with the Frat Boy by Benefit, the Balm. Here I'm just going back with my concealer brush with no extra product on it and making sure that everything is nice and blended. Once I start putting on the rest of my face, sometimes I'll go back and make sure that my contour is exactly how I want it, mainly because once you start putting everything else on your face, it starts to take away a little bit from the contour, and you can really see those harsh lines that you don't want. Here I'm going back with that Frat Boy like I said I was going to, and next I'm going in with the eyeshadow. This Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar is absolutely amazing. I love it. I've said it before in the intro, but I just can't get away from it. It's perfect. It's got all the really nice shades for winter, spring, fall. It doesn't matter. You could use this all year round. Here I'm using an E40 blending brush, and I sped it up a little bit just because you can still tell exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going back and forth windshield wiper motions with that, I believe it's truffle shade as my transition shade, and I'm just making sure that I'm blending it nicely and I know exactly how much product I'm putting on one eye so I can do the exact same thing to the other. Making sure that I'm not exactly going too far into the inner corner, but I am making sure that it's going all over the lid. This is a little bit more of a all over lid transition color rather than just a crease, and there's a reason for that. I just chose to make this eye look a little bit darker than I normally would, and that's normally how I do it. I make sure that transition shade goes a little bit more all over the lid rather than just in that crease. Next, in a second, I'm going to be taking the Sienna shade from, I'm sorry, not the Sienna shade, this shade, Peanut Butter, from that same palette, and I'm just making sure that I go over that to warm it up a little bit. I didn't want it to seem like it was just all one color. I wanted to give it a little bit more dimension and make sure that it was very blended out, and that's exactly what I did with that E40 brush, blending brush by Sigma. This is probably one of my favorite brushes of all time for eyeshadow, just because I love the way that it blends all over my eyelid. It makes it the easiest. Here I'm using the smaller blending brush, which again, I'll list down the numbers. I'll list the numbers down below, but I'm taking that, what is this shade? Turtle or Truffle, or I can't remember. Again, I'll list it down below, but I'm just not going any further than the middle of my eye, and I'm just dragging that in. This is more just the crease shade. This did not go any further than the middle of my eye. I did blend it in a little bit, but as for when I was placing the shade, I didn't go any further than the inside, than the middle of the eye. Here I'm taking that peachy shade from the Double Exposure palette. It's the second one to the full exposure, and I'm just making sure that I place that on my lid. The reason why I chose to not use a brush is because a lot of times when I'm trying to pack on color, I feel like there's not another brush that could do it any better than my fingers. So that's just how I choose to do it. Some people like the MAC 242 brush, but I just prefer my finger. I don't know. I haven't really found a brush yet to replace it. So until I do, I will keep using my finger. I just went back with my blending brush to make sure that it was nice and blended. And I'm done with the eyeshadow. So here I'm going on to my eyeliner. I just tried to connect or try to bring my eyeliner up to the high point of my eyebrow. That's kind of what I use. I mean, not the high point of my eyebrow, the end of my eyebrow, and I kind of just, that's what I use as my guideline, and I just do that on both sides. And I'm using the NYX, or not NYX, NYC liquid liner. I think this is like $2 at any drugstore. It's amazing. I love it. I haven't found another one that was worth the money. Usually any of the high-end ones are like $20, and I just, why spend $20 on something when I already have one that I like for only $2? So here I'm taking the Sienna shade with that flat definer brush, and I'm just putting that all over the bottom of my lid to kind of smoke it out and make it a little bit more warm. I am going to go back with that darker brown shade that I used on the top just for the crease and darken it up a little bit. After I am done blending that out, I'm going to go back in with a Physician Formula, just a regular black eyeliner, just to make it a little bit darker, and then I will go back again with a flat definer brush to make sure that everything's nice and blended. I did skip my eyebrows just because the video was getting to be too long, and I have done them on my channel before, so if you're wondering how I did them, you can just go to another video and just skip to where the eyebrows are. I'm sorry, I just really didn't want to upload a 20-minute video. Here I'm going to be using the Barely Bloomed lipstick from the Rebel line by Maybelline that just came out this month. I love it. It just was a little bit too flesh tone for me. It was a little bit too nude for this particular look, so I did go back with the lip gloss from a limited edition holiday kit that came out last year. I think it came out by Hourglass. They never really said, or if they did, I never really paid attention. But I think it was by Hourglass, and it was an amazing kit. But anyways, that's the Fear Not lipstick. Lip gloss that I paired with that Barely Bloomed. And the mascara that I used, was a Butterfly. It's the Butterfly something. I believe it's by Loreal. I'll list it down below too. Next, I'm going to be taking the highlighter shade by Becca in the shade Moonstone, and I'm just putting that on the high points of my cheeks, on my forehead, as well as above my top lip and my chin, just to highlight along with that contour. This is probably my favorite highlighter to date. It has been since it came out, or since it was hyped up, I guess. I don't really know if I got it exactly when it came out, but it has been amazing since I bought it. It's the only one I used at the time, or have used for a while. This one, the particular brush, is the one that I use for, I'll list the name down below, is the one that I use to contour my nose. I'm just using that Chocolate Soleil bronzer, and the reason why I chose that shade is because I didn't want to do it too dark because a lot of the times it's hard for me to blend out those shades around my nose just because I do highlight so well around there, and it most of the time is a little bit harder to blend them out. Next, after I'm done with this, I'm going to be going in with that same concealer brush just to make sure that everything is nice and blended, that there are no harsh lines around my temples or on my cheeks. But after that, I am done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys have any requests or comments, just leave them down below. Bye!